Hello Friendzies, welcome back to my channel. I wanted to talk about the library again. Listen, I feel like all I do, well, I haven't done it in a bit, but I feel like most of last year, all I did was like make videos about being a librarian. There's something specific that I want to talk about though. It's not just like the overall existence of being a librarian. I have said this before, it's my fucking dream job, one of my dream jobs. So I will keep talking about it, but I'm trying not to do it as much. But the thing I wanted to talk about, being a librarian, you're still working with the public. There's not really any positions that I know of in a library where you're not still having to interact with the public. Because even when my mom worked separate from the public and had like an office at her old library and did very specific things, she still had to cover the desk when it was needed, the circulation desk. It wasn't often, but she still had to do it a bit. So it's not like she could fully escape customer service. So it is customer service is like front facing. You still have to deal with people. But the thing, libraries versus retail, I've done both and I've been there for almost 2 full years now. So I can say there is a difference between libraries and retail customer service, but there is a difference between them. But the difference is very specific. Retail, especially if you work in like a store and if you work in a store that's popular in America, that's a very specific store. I feel like you can get anybody and everybody, and sometimes it's like really great and sometimes it's not. I've talked about how I've been stalked in the past at my old job. And you know what I mean? There's just like a lot that happens in retail. The difference with the library is the library I feel like is very curated. Yes, people come to the library to kind of do whatever, whenever. That is what working with the public is. But it is different than retail. I will say that. At least my personal experience. It is different because where I used to work before, people kind of just went there to have something to do. And when people go to the library, it feels like they're there for a very specific reason. It's a very curated experience. So I want to talk about some of the patrons that I experience. Because we've had a couple really funny ones and we've had a couple like very sweet ones. Like there is two patrons that I absolutely adore. There's an older woman, I'm not going to say her name. There's an older woman that we were always kind of chatting back and forth. She seems to come like on my specific days of the week that I close. And it was just like a weird pattern. Like it wasn't on purpose. She wasn't going there specifically for me, but we just noticed that we happened to both be there at the same time every week. And we always were kind of chatting back and forth. And one day she was very, very nice and asked about my name, and that's a specific thing because I'm going to talk kind of more about that in a bit. But she actually introduced herself, which was very nice. Not a lot of people introduce themselves, and asked for my name. And now every time we see each other on the day of the week that I close, she's like, "Oh my God, hey Heather, how you doing?" I'm like, "Oh my God, I'm so good, girl. How are you?" She's a very sweet lady. And then there's a family. We do pajama story time the day of the week that I close the library. There's pajama story time where people can just come in and hang out in the children's department and one of the librarians reads a book and they do cute little activities. There's one family that comes in. I actually, now that I'm saying that, I have not seen them since I want to say January or February. Pajama story time was on hold for a little bit because we renovated our children's department. But I haven't seen them in a while. I hope they're doing okay. I hope they're all right. I hope they didn't move because I really liked them. But it was a mom, father, and sweet little girl. And I think she's like 4 or 5. She might be 5 by this point, but she's a young little thing. And she's the most darling little girl in the world. She's always wearing a dinosaur like onesie with the hood, or sorry, dragon. It's always a dragon. And one time she wore a cat one, and she's so sweet, she's so friendly, she has such a little personality, and she's like a little bit sassy, but not too much. One time she had, well, every time they come, they check out like stacks of books. It's always like 30 plus books, and it's always like very specific to what she clearly is interested in at the time. There was birds one time, there was dragons, there was Star Wars, and she had one of those baby Yoda things that's like this big. And I was like, "Oh my goodness, you have your baby Yoda." And she was like, "His name is Grogu." And I was like, "You're so right, Queen. I'm so sorry." Adore her. She's the cutest thing in the world. And her parents are really cute. I can see you have to put your birthday in when you get a library card. So I can see her parents' ages when I pull up their library cards to check out. They're a little bit younger than me. They're like a year or two younger than me. They very much aesthetically look like we could be best friends. They're very friendly. They're very sweet. I love them. Oh, there was a lady one time too. She was coming like every Saturday that I worked, right? She was coming every Saturday and she would come, she'd have a baby carriage, she'd have another woman with her, and she'd have like a toddler. I haven't seen them in a while either. But the toddler and the other woman would go upstairs and then she'd be downstairs with the baby in the stroller. And one time she signed up for a library card and I like, you have to do like your ID number or whatever, right? If you have an ID or a license, you have to put that on. So I did her, her application and I was just like, oh shoot, I forgot her ID number. I'm gonna have to write that down. But I saw her sitting like somewhere. So I rushed over to her really quick and I was like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. I just need to see your ID like super quick. I just, goofed. And she's like, oh, that's no problem. And she hands me her ID and she, this is crazy. Every time I tell like other like librarians that I work with about this, they're like, oh yeah, really? She goes, oh yeah, we come here and I get some work done while the baby sleeps. My son is upstairs with the au pair. Not the nanny, the au pair. Okay. Like, sure. So plenty of very nice patrons. I think they're all very darling, which makes the like bad patrons, the ones that we like whisper about and like make jokes about, even more hilarious because like it's a library. Why are we acting like this? So the most recent one was, I wasn't there earlier in the day, but earlier in the day, one of my coworkers got a book return. They were like 5 or 6 pages in the middle of the book. The top corner were like crunchy and like chewed on. I could tell when she showed it to me, when my coworker showed it to me, that it was a cat that had bitten at it. I could tell. I have 2 cats. I've seen what they can bite. They bite plastic. You could tell it was a cat. It wasn't a dog because I feel like if a dog bit it, it would have been more destroyed, but it was a cat. So there's like hole punches in it. So my boss calls and leaves a message about like, hey, there's a book that's damaged. Looks like a cat bit at it. You're gonna need to replace it. Like, you're gonna need to pay for the replacement. Either you buy us a new one and bring it in, or you pay the money to replace it, right? Not a bad thing to ask, I don't think. An animal clearly chewed on this book. So whatever, my boss had to leave a message. Not even 20 minutes later, we get a phone call. I pick up. The library that I work at, how can I help you? She wasn't like overly rude. She didn't have like that Karen tone of voice, but would not let me get a word in edgewise. I just got a call about this book that was damaged and I don't have a cat, so it couldn't have been me. And it was in she called it the lending area. You mean the bookshelves, girl? But it was in your lending area, so I thought that you were all aware of it and blah, blah, blah. So I'm like, okay. I'm going to put you on hold. I'm going to send you over to the person that called you. And she's like, oh, okay. So I put her on hold and my boss is just like, we're going to let her sit for a minute. So that I'm telling my boss what she said and, I don't have a cat, so it couldn't have been me. So whatever, my boss talks to her. The lady is, I guess, obnoxious enough that my boss is like, okay, whatever. We're just going to mark it down in the book and put it back on the shelf. So other people are aware that we are aware that it was bitten. So it became a joke at circulation where anytime anything happens now, I'm going to say, I don't have a cat, so it couldn't have been me. And we ended up making a page, like a tab on our library homepage, on our catalog that you would come and browse books online, called Cats and Snacks. Because the original joke was, oh, we'll call it Hungry Hungry Cats. We ended up calling it Cats and Snacks. I threw in some nonfiction about like caring for your cats. I threw in some cookbooks to like make it funny. But one of the books that I added was a book called 12 Angry Librarians, and it had a picture of a cat on it. So that was fun. That was a funny little thing. And that's like our joke now. And anytime anything happens, I go, well, I don't have a cat, so it couldn't have been me. And it's very funny. What's the other thing that happened? Oh my God, delivery the other day. We get delivery of books every day of like people that have returned books, that have borrowed them from our library and returned it somewhere else. That kind of thing. We got returned the other day It was earlier this week, I think. Earlier this week. And I wasn't there again when delivery came. Like, it was my night to close. And apparently there was like oil at the bottom of one of the boxes, but like vegetable oil, like cooking oil, like salad dressing. Because you could smell it, I guess. I didn't go anywhere near the box. I saw the box and went, oh, that's weird. I wonder why they didn't do that yet. And then walked away to my job. And my boss was the one that handled it. So yeah, don't know how that happened. And my like boss is like, was the driver, like the delivery driver, like eating salad or something? Like, but how would you spill that much oil? And my boss is like, it's not up to me. I gotta call these libraries about these books that are damaged. So oil in the delivery. And then, oh my God, yesterday. I worked yesterday. Yesterday. I was born and raised in a small town. I guess now it's considered like a small city. But I was born and raised in a small town where people there very much, it's Italian last names and football. I don't know how relatable that is for other people. If you know, you know, where that's like the most important things. If you specifically come from like a certain family, and if one of your kids plays football, because that suddenly makes you like the perfect golden child of the town, right? So I come from a town like that. We moved, obviously, and I now live in a small town. I don't know what their deal is, their specific deal is, but I was told by my boss that when I like put books on like the display little things on the shelves, that I need to be careful because we live in a very conservative town. So a lot of older people. I've worked there for almost 2 years now, but like it's like I don't really care to know you. You know what I mean? Like, unless you're being like, oh my God, like, I'm here all the time. Like, so nice to meet you. I'm so and so. We don't need to, like, know each other's names. We don't really need to know, like, personal details. If we can exchange pleasantries and make every transaction lovely, I don't really need to, like, get to know you. Nobody really goes out of their way to get to know me, any of the patrons. So I think that's fine. I think we can stand at, like, the strangers but very polite kind of vibe. You can recognize me as your librarian, but like neither one of us really need to know more about each other. You know what I mean? When some of the people, when they ask me my name, I tell them, but for the most part, people don't ask, and I don't ask theirs. I can see their name on the computer when they check out a book, but I'm not like, oh, Tracy, here's your book, because they would get weirded out, right? But we do have a couple people that come to the library that I think it's because they've been coming to the library for so long, or they're a trustee, or they're like one of the friends of the library, or they make donations to the library, that you can tell they're kind of confused when I don't know who they are, or I don't immediately like grab their books because I'm like, oh my God, it's Tracy. Let me hurry up and grab your books, girl. Like, I don't, there's that one patron that I know her name because she's introduced herself to me and took time out of her day to learn my name. So I learned hers. So we've had a couple people like that where they come up and I'm like, oh, I have books on hold. And I'm like, oh yeah, no problem. Like, can I see your library card? And they seem very like off put by the fact that I'm not like, oh my God, hey girl, like it's you, or like blah, blah, blah. I had I think it was the head of the trustee board one day come back and she was like, oh, like whatever she said to me, I don't even remember what it was. And I was like, yeah, sure. Because I didn't know who she was. And I was just like, you sound like you know what you're talking about. And she was like, very upset that I didn't immediately know who she was. You've never introduced yourself to me. You've never asked my name. So yesterday at work, it's kind of like I don't know how to explain it, but anyway, we do fines at my library. That's not up to me. That's not my decision. It's far above my pay grade. I have thoughts and opinions on that, but it's far above my pay grade. So a man went to check out yesterday, and it's always a fucking man, and it's always an old white man. It always is. A man went to check out yesterday, and I was like, oh, okay, like, you have this fine that is restricting your card. So you're going to need to pay that before you can check out your card today. And he's just staring at me. And I'm like, so if you don't want to do that today, that's no problem. We hold the book until a certain date. I think it's like a week, 2 weeks that we hold books on the shelf, you know, because sometimes like weather happens. People have like small children. They're not able to get to the library just because they put a book on hold. We 100% understand that. But I'm like, well, you know, it can be on the shelf until this day. So if you don't want to pay today, it's not a problem. And he's just like staring at me. And I'm like, my part of the transaction is over, my guy. You need to say something now. So then he was like kind of like mumbling to himself because he was an older man too. So I think some of the things he couldn't really hear what I was saying. But he's like taking the money out of his wallet and he's like it was 560. He's like 560 he was saying, and I was like, "Yep, that's the amount." And he said he like mumbled something and then he was like, "I think I might need to, you know, change my donation if this is going to be what's happening. I might need to change my donation from 50 to 10, 1,000, I guess. I don't know." And I was just like, "You know, do what you got to do." Like, what? I don't know who you are, sir. I don't know if I'm supposed to know who you are. I have no idea who you are. Literally none of this matters to me. So he paid and he checked out his book and then I was like, "All right, have a good day." And he was just like, "Rrr," like left, but I don't know what to tell you. So it's things like that. It's like the two extremes of like people are very like lovely and polite, or there's people that are very upset that I don't know who they are. And I think that's really funny because those couple of things, the man yesterday, the oil salad dressing question mark in the bottom of our delivery bin, and then our cats and snacks display, specifically inspired by one woman who, I don't have a cat, so it couldn't have been me, but it clearly was bitten by a cat. Libraries are very funny, and I think they're very curated because there was a lot of like crazy shit that happened with customers when I worked in retail and worked at a very specific store, but I feel like they all kind of blended together over the years because it's a lot of the same thing. Like even when it's batshit insane, it's not the first customer that's done that. It's just the first one that's done it today. It's that kind of energy where at libraries I feel like things stand out a little more because it is the public. It is absolutely the public. And I think it's because I also work at a very small town library that it feels very curated and very specific, and like some things are like that's batshit, but it's like it's a very small amount of people. I'm sure libraries that like are in cities, even the library in my old town, because it's a bigger town and they have like a very like diverse collection of people, I feel like maybe it's different, but at my library I feel like it is very curated. There's very specific kind of cuckoo bananas, right? So I don't know, I thought that would be like a cute little video, and you could laugh with me about how some things happen. You know, I don't have a cat, but it couldn't have been me. So thank you guys so much for watching. Please leave a like if you enjoyed, and let me know in the comments. I don't know, some like if you work in retail or if you work in an office, like what is some of your work like nuttiness that goes down? My aunt told me some stories about what happened at her old work. And I got plenty of stories about my old work, but those stories aren't as fun because those are traumatizing and make me cry because I cried then. Anyway, so these are funny. These are funnier stories. Anyway, again, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.